In today's video, we're going to talk about the final Duskmourn commander deck of the 4, and this one is called Death Toll. It is black-green and has some pretty solid cards in it, including one that I think is going to be pretty good across multiple decks. So let's jump into the video and talk about it. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to each and every one of you that takes time to watch these videos, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and click the bell icon if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. About like 92% of people who watch the videos regularly are not subscribed, so if even like a few of you took the time to subscribe, it would be a huge help for the channel and allow me to make, more content more consistently. So thank you to anyone who does. But yes, if you haven't caught the previous 3 videos, they're all in the same playlist that this video will be, so you can definitely check them all out and get your own opinions on the decks. I think the black-red one we talked about yesterday appears to be the only one that is sold out so far. Maybe I'm missing something because I don't think that deck is all that impressive. It has some good cards, but I don't think it's crazy. I appear to be in the minority because some of the comments told me that I'm not fully understanding the way the deck's supposed to operate. Perhaps that's the case. I don't know, but we're going to talk about this one today, and this one is the final of the 4. It is called Death Toll, and Winter Cynical Opportunist is the face commander for the deck. It is 2 black-green legendary creature human warlock with Death Touch. Whenever Winter attacks, mill 3 cards, and then has Delirium. Of course, you may exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. If you do, put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. This happens at the beginning of the end step. This is pretty interesting. I do like the milling. It fits right in with what a ton of Golgari decks like to do, and I suppose, any number of cards, as long as there's 4 more card types among them, means if you have like a card that's an instant and a sorcery, or a creature that's also an enchantment, etc., you don't necessarily need to have 4, so it is a pretty good way to get some things out pretty quickly, as long as you build your deck in a way that allows you to do that. And of course, technically speaking, you can do this with lands too, so just something to note, in terms of meeting the required conditions here. Not super hard to do, especially not within these colors. It's pretty basic, but it's pretty good, and I think it's almost like a slightly better version of Marin of Clan Neltoth, I think it is, which allows you, works with experience counters. It seems like a little bit of an easier way to get to where Marin wants to go, although you of course have the, the finite resources versus the experience counters allowing you to bring them back consistently. Maybe there's, different ways to take that, I'm not really sure, but either way, it's pretty solid. The second face commander, if you will, for this deck is Rendmaw Creaking Nest, and I adore this card. The design is incredibly cool, and we'll talk about it in just a second, but let's look at the effect first, of course. It is 3 black-green legendary artifact creature Scarecrow with Menace and Reach. When it enters, and whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tapped 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. Those tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. Obviously, it's a Scarecrow and birds. I like that. I like that you actually create the birds and they can't attack you because they're goaded, so the Scarecrow is safe from the birds. It chases them away. It's just beautiful flavor worked into the card for what it is, but I don't think there's too many cards that do something like this. Not to mention, you also get a bird, so just food for thought. But obviously, you're going to want to build this primarily around, I'm guessing enchantment creatures is going to be the way to go, because that's going to be the easiest way to meet those 2 requirements. Although if you play like an enchantment land or an artifact land, that technically counts too, because it doesn't say cast. So just something to note, there are a lot of different ways to take this. It's definitely the more interesting card of the 2 face commanders in my opinion, and I cannot wait to actually play around with this card. Who knows how viable it's going to be, but it's pretty powerful, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of different, I think, approaches to build the deck, but I think enchantment may be the best way to go, mixed in with some other dual type cards and stuff, and just generally like delirium good stuff. So overall, super cool. I give this an A on flavor and design. I just really like when they make cards that are just unique, and this is obviously unique while also being somewhat viable in my opinion, so it's a win on both fronts. Demonic Covenant is 4 and 2 black, Kindred Enchantment Demon. Whenever 1 or more demons you control attack a player, you draw a card and lose a life. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying, then mill 2 cards. If 2 cards that share all their card types are milled this way, sacrifice Demonic Covenant. So obviously, if you mill 2 instants, 2 creatures, etc., it is going to go away. But if you're playing a lot of different card types, or perhaps you are playing some dual types, because it says when they share all their card types. So my understanding is if you mill a creature and an enchantment creature, you do not have to sacrifice the card because the enchantment creature doesn't share all of its types with this one. I could be wrong, and certainly let me know if I am, but this actually seems like a pretty solid card that is going to be a nuisance if your opponents don't get rid of it quickly. Not to mention the mill is actually good and works really well with everything else too. So just a solid card. It is a little costly, but we do know that there are a bazillion ways to reduce the cost of enchantments, especially within the color combinations that a lot of the, the commanders might be playing this in. I suppose if you're playing like a Demon Kindred deck, it may not be as good, but that's just sort of what we're looking at here. I think it's solid, little costly, but I think there's ways to bypass that downside. Formless Genesis is 2 and a green Kindred Sorcery Shapeshifter. It has Changeling and says create an XX colorless Shapeshifter creature token with Changeling and Death Touch, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. Then it also has Retrace. You can discard it, cast it from your graveyard by discarding a land in addition to its other costs. Obviously sets itself up right there. I love that it's a Changeling, which means it's searchable by a billion things. Being a Shapeshifter Changeling means while it is not a creature, cards that say when you cast X spell, demon spell, spirit spell, what have you, do trigger off of this, similar to Crib Swap. So it's just really good. It's not super costly, and getting a token with Death Touch, not to mention if you're playing token duplicators, you can get 2 of them. It's just going to be a card that can start to become problematic pretty quickly, and, filling up your graveyard with lands in a deck where you're going to be milling is not a super hard task. So I like this card a lot. Delu of Doom, obviously Toxic Deluge, bit of a reimagining here. 2 and a black sorcery, all creatures get -X till end of turn, where X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. Okay, I like it. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, and I didn't really want to do this live, but I guess I'm going to. So if we've got creature, instant, sorcery, enchantment, battle, planeswalker, land, and artifact, I think there's 8. I believe there's 8 different card types, so the max this will be is an 8/8, which can pretty much be a board wipe. It's not bad. It's a nice alternative to Toxic Deluge. I think Deluge is a little bit better, but anytime you have a card like this that can be a pseudo board wipe for lower cost, it's definitely not bad, and obviously you don't have to pay life like you do with Deluge, so there is that kind of upside too. It's pretty cool. Just, limited, it can only go so far, but in general, in most cases, if you do have all of the different card types engraved, although I don't know who's playing battles often nowadays, it shouldn't be too hard to at least be able to get some advantage with this, so not bad. Into the Pit is 2 and a black enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells from the top of your library by sacrificing a non-land permanent in addition to paying their other costs. Anytime you get a card like this, it's usually pretty good. I mean, especially if it's lower cost, like being able to get access to extra cards and cast any type of spell by sacrificing a non-land permanent. You have treasures, you have food, there's tons of cards that make food, right? And that's very popular. You can sack tokens here. Or creatures, triggering death triggers on a creature is pretty good. Someone pointed out this card works really well with Igra because, every time something sacrificed, it gets +2. Not a terrible option either, especially in a deck that can make food tokens and also turns everything else into food tokens. So overall, not a bad card, and I think this is going to be pretty popular. Demolisher spawn is 5 and 2 green with trample and haste. When it attacks, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, other attacking creatures get +4/+4 until end of turn. It's pretty costly at 7, but I said this earlier, you can definitely bring the cost down to make this a lot more viable. Even the new, the Amanatu Commander, I think, I can't remember if there's green in that. I don't have it up in front of me on the top of my head. But either way, the green has a ton of cards that do reduce the cost of enchantments. It can sort of become like a pseudo Craterhoof Behemoth. Not as good because it doesn't give trample or the +X/+X. But if you're on a budget, or perhaps you just, have ways to get enchantments out quicker, this could push for a lot. It's cute. It's gonna have a place somewhere, I think. It's objectively weaker than Craterhoof, obviously, but it's also not designed to be like a one-for-one copy. We've got Polluted Cistern and Dim Oubliette, or I don't know if I mispronounced that. If I did, I'm sorry. Deal with it. This is an enchantment room. The left side is 1 and a black. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, each opponent loses 1 life for each card type among them. And the other side is 4 and a black and says when you unlock this door, mill 3 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So 5 mana for a reanimate, not terrible, specifically because the first part of this effect is actually really good, so if you already have it out, it's not like it's utilizing a ton of extra resources to do it, and there's no restriction, obviously, on what you're bringing back. It doesn't come out with a finality counter, it's just, you can unlock it and you can bring it back. But that left side effect in general is going to be pretty good because of how often, you know, the Golgari mill strategy will work. Cards with dredge, other cards that are, you know, putting them into the graveyard, milling things. We just went over a couple, and there are so many that do a lot of things. So this is a really good card that's going to fit in a lot of different commander strategies just because of how prominent that milling theme is and how annoying it might be for each opponent. Even if you're only milling like 2 or 3 cards a turn, and there's a couple differences, 2-3 life a turn will start to add up, you know, and put some extra pressure on the opponent. So it's a good card. Ursine Monstrosity is 2 and a green creature, bear mutant with trample. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill a card and choose an opponent at random. Ursine Monstrosity attacks that player this combat at, if able. Until end of turn, it gains indestructible and +1/+1 for each card of type among cards in your graveyard. It's okay. It's a 3 mana 3/3 with trample. Obviously, getting the indestructible and the buff is nice, and it can't die in battle anyway, as long as that indestructible resolves. So I mean, there's definitely worse options out there. I feel like it's low enough to the ground that it's pretty good. I just don't... and the mill is decent. I don't know, how do we feel about this one, guys? Because, again, it seems to happen quite a lot that I'm just reading and reacting to these, and then there's, like, something blatantly obvious I'm missing, where it's like, oh, this will work so well with such and such. Like, it's by no means a bad card, right? It's just that, comparatively, it feels a little bit less like a must-play in certain strategies, and more like something you might just add into the 99 to fill up some space. But if you feel differently on that, definitely let me know. Convert to Slime is 3 black-green sorcery. Destroy up to 1 artifact, a creature, and enchantment. Then, if 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, create an XX green ooze creature token, where X is the total mana value of permanents destroyed this way. It's not bad, right? Obviously, if you're hitting some decent artifact creatures, etc., you can get a pretty powerful ooze. 5 mana is pretty steep. There are definitely other ways to do that, but it gives you some flexibility with the up to, as well as giving you a creature, so it isn't bad. I do think black as a color has a lot of ways to remove stuff that are probably cheaper than what this is going to cost you, but that's not to say it doesn't have some space to get you out of a jam, and then also give you something else that could be a bit powerful. But I would say overall a little bit underwhelming comparatively to the rest of the stuff in the deck. So that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of everything we've talked about here. I definitely think Renmaw is just so cool, so I'm curious to see what other people think. And let me know out of the 4, which is your favorite of the commander decks, because I'm curious to see what people are looking at ordering. Definitely be sure to check Amazon too. There are pre-orders up still for most of the decks at quote-unquote MSRP or close to it. So before you go pay a bunch extra at, you know, Walmart, Target, or your LCS if they're not selling them at reasonable prices, definitely look there, because that is my go-to usually. If I can't get it at my locals at, you know, a regular price, I'll try to pre-order stuff on Amazon, because it's usually cheaper, and they have the pre-order guarantee. So if the price does go back to lower than what it is, you'll get it at the best price. I get nothing to tell you that. I'm not sponsored by Amazon or anything like that. I just want, you know, I'm someone who likes to look for the best deal while being able to also get, you know, the cards I want without having to overpay a ton. So just some thoughts, but let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.